In today's video, we're going to be going over this 3D reel effect from Houston Kold. The great thing is, using this example and recreating it, it will set the foundations for you to understand 3D scenes within After Effects, so that in the future, when you have a project when you want to do a 3D scene, you'll know what to do. Now, before we get into it, if you want to go from an average or okay editor to becoming one of the best editors and animators in the entire world, to where you can produce videos like Iman Ghazi, Ali Abdaal, Vox, Dan Ko, even my style that's gotten me millions of views, and on top of that, you want to attract top level influencers and brands that are going to pay you what you deserve, anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 a month, then check out our Leverage Editor community and program. Here I'm going to show you all the secrets that I've learned in the past 12 years working for major brands. And of course, I'm going to show you the Iman Ghazi, Ali Abdaal, even Dan Ko style, and including my style myself within this Leverage Editor community and program. Previously, we had many successful students go through the program, but now we're doing something a little bit different where we're attaching a community to it. You'll be able to get update training, network, one-on-ones, coaching, mentoring, and even go through challenges that we're having. Currently right now we have 2 going on where you could earn up to $200. So everything that you need to unlock your ability to become a leverage editor is within this program and community. Click the link in the description to enroll. It will only be open for 5 days, as we want to limit access of people who go through, just so that each individual is being attended to and making sure that they are having a successful experience with the program and community. So spots are super limited, and the next time we're going to open it up will be another month or 2. So make sure to join right now and be ahead of the curve and unlock the ability to become a leveraged editor. Now with that, let's get into the tutorial. Alrighty, so we're here in After Effects, and you can go ahead and create a composition 1080 by 1920 in height. You copy these settings if you're following along, then just hit OK. From here, we're going to start to build out the scene, and then we're going to make it a 3D scene. Let's start off with that picture of Iman Ghazi first. Just going to drag him in. By the way, I forgot to mention the project file and the assets that I'm using will be available to download completely for free. Just go to the link in the description. You can download everything. If not, if you don't want to download it, you can certainly find everything online and just follow along as well. So let's cut out Iman Ghazi here. Go up to your pen tool. Make sure this layer is selected, and we're just going to trace him out here, cut him out, and I'm going to speed this up right here. Alrighty, so Iman is completely cut out. Now, if he doesn't cut out for you and you masked around him, just hit M on your keyboard, and then you go to the mask 1 and make sure that this is selected as add. Then he'll be cut out. From here, we're going to stylize him a little bit. We're going to add a gradient to him. So in the effects and presets tab, just look up gradient, and you'll see gradient ramp. Go ahead and throw that onto him. We're going to keep the start color as black, but we're just going to change this end color to a nice bright red. From here, what we can do is actually move the anchor points of this gradient. So you can see I selected this one at the bottom, and I'm moving it to the left here. There's one at the top as well. This is the black. I'm going to move it to this side. You just want to mess with it a little bit till we get the desired gradient that we want. Something like that is pretty good. Next is to go to blend with original and increase that percentage by a little bit. Something like 33% is good. One thing that we want to add to it is a black and white effect. So look up saturation. You'll see hue and saturation. Toss that on there. And then we're going to go to master saturation. Just turn that down all the way. You can see that the gradient disappears. So we need to bring this above the gradient. And that looks good. Just going to adjust the blend with original a little bit more. Something like 23% is good. The next thing we want to do is add a little bit of movement in Iman. In the original video, the guy or the picture of Iman kind of moves a tad bit like he's actually like a real character. So we're going to rig him up. This is super simple. We don't want to overcomplicate it. All you have to do is make sure this layer is selected. Go to your puppet position pin tool, click on that, and we're going to make some pinpoints for him. So I'm going to do one at his waist, one at the start of his neck, one at his head, one at his shoulder, elbow, arm. Do the same thing over here. Basically what this is doing is pinning certain areas so we can move it. And then the key to making this effect look natural and nice is really just ever so slightly moving him. We don't want to move him too much. So I'm going to drop down the effects here, and you'll see puppet. We're going to animate this out. So I hit U on my keyboard, so this automatically gets keyframed, and make sure your playhead's at the beginning when you do this. So hit U on your keyboard, you'll see all the keyframes. Move your playhead about like 2 seconds. And then we can move some of these, like I said, ever so slightly. Bring it up another 2 seconds, so around 4 seconds there, and move ever so slightly again. See how that looks. That's pretty good. So I'm going to keep on going by 2 seconds and move them very slightly. All right, so that's pretty good. I only need to go to about 10 seconds. And honestly, I could trim this thing to around 10 seconds. So actually, I'll just keep it as is for now. But yeah, so he's just moving around a little bit, ever so slightly. It's just going to add a little bit of a realistic movement to him. From here, we're going to create the text behind him. So I'm going to go to my text tool in the top left here, click once on the screen, and you can see the text typer comes up. I'm going to type in Iman Gadzi, just like that. Obviously, this is not the right thing that we want. So I'm going to scale it down, change this font to Dharma Gothic E. Once again, I'm going to have this font for you to download, or just something similar like this you can use. Next thing to do is get rid of the stroke and add a fill to it. So it should be this color red here. You can copy that if you're following along. One thing I'm going to do is just tighten up the distance between the text a little bit by messing with this right here. Should look good. I'm actually going to scale it up a tad bit. So hit an S on my keyboard to scale, something like that. And then we can put this behind Iman. Cool. Oh, one thing I noticed with the text, let's actually make it capitalized. So I'll just do Iman Gadzi. And then since I did that, I'm just going to scale it down or mess with the settings a little bit, maybe scale it down. Now we can throw a glow effect onto it. So I'm going to use a glow effect called Deep Glow. If you don't have this is totally fine. You can use regular After Effects glow effect. Deep Glow just makes it a little bit easier to get the desired look that you're going for. After Effects glow effect is totally fine. So you can look it up in the presets and toss it onto the text. But I'm going to use Deep Glow. So I'm going to look up Deep Glow. By the way, you can get this for, I think, around like 40 or 50 bucks. It's definitely worth the money if you have the money to spend on it. If not, no worries. Just use the regular glow effect. So I'm turning down the exposure to right around 0.16. And the radius is pretty good, so 455 is good for that. One thing that I am going to do is add a little bit of a pulsing effect to the glow. To do that, you want to go over to the exposure keyframe, hold down Option on a Mac. For a PC, it would be Alt. So you're going to hold that down and click this. And now an expression window will pop up. So what I'm going to type in is wiggle. We're going to do 10, comma, 0.2. There you go, 0.2. And then we should be good. And we have a little bit of a pulsating effect here. Okay, so now that we have that going on, we can have the text behind them that says add. So I'm just going to go to my text tool, click once, and then type add. I'm actually going to change this font to Europa Grotesque. Once again, you'll be able to download this, I believe, for free, or you can find it online. It is free. So I'm scaling this up. I'm going to change to no fill here, and I'm going to highlight the stroke and keep the stroke around 5 pixels should be good. So it's already kind of set here, but just type this settings if you're following along. I'm going to rotate this a little bit as well. Scale it up. Throw it behind them. I'm going to hit T on my keyboard to bring up the opacity. Really turn that opacity down. And I'm also going to throw a glow effect on that as well. So I'm going to look up Deep Glow, toss that on there. That's pretty good. So the one thing you need to do is just really mess with the opacity. Make sure we're getting that right. And scaling that up. Getting the right position of it. Alrighty, that's pretty good. Next thing we're going to add is the little bit of line streaks in here. So go up to your pen tool. Make sure nothing's selected in the timeline. Click on your pen tool, and then we can make a little bit of a line here. Kind of pointing towards them. I'm going to change this stroke width to 5. And then I'm going to add a Gaussian blur to this rather than a deep glow. So Gaussian blur, toss that on there. Turn up the blurriness. Right around like 12 is good. And then we can turn down the opacity a bit. Kind of move that so it's going off screen. We're going to mess with the rotation of this a little bit later. We're just going to do a couple more lines here. So 2 more. One coming this way. Just like that. Toss that same Gaussian blur on. So I'm going to Command C this to copy, and then Command V to paste it onto this new line layer that we made, and then just change the opacity to the same exact one. So 67% should be good. And then we're going to make one more. Well, that kind of just goes behind them here. Toss that same blur onto there. So I just hit Command V since it was already copied. I'm going to put this one behind him and then just change the opacity to around 67%. Should be good. All right, so we're almost done with the scene. The one thing that we do need to add is the little video that plays right here. So once again, I have this downloaded for you, but if you want to download it yourself, you can certainly do that. Just go to an Iman Ghazi video, download one of his videos, and just find an area where there's some animation on it. So I'm just going to drag this in, just kind of sift around here until I find an animation just like this. So I'm going to cut up right here by hitting Command-Shift-D. That's going to make a cut in my layer. I'm going to delete the one to the left. See how far this plays out. We can have it play out to like 11 seconds and then hit Command-D, cut that up. I'm going to scale this down. One thing I'm going to do is add a little bit of a CRT effect to it, or like just like this pixelated, feels like it's like a screen. You're looking at it like it's a screen effect. I don't really know how to explain it. I guess CRT would be the right word, but to do that, what we're going to do is right click on it, go to pre-compose, and we're going to do leave all attributes in comp 3. And we just title this video, just whatever you want to title. It doesn't really matter. We could double click into this and now it's going to open it up in its full quality. From here, we're going to mess with a couple of settings. First is the color. So look up Colorama. We're going to toss that on there and go to the output cycle. We're going to change it to a ramp red. What you can do is just click on this red up top to where you see this then appear where it's red down here. And we can just move this down ever so slightly just to kind of not make it too red. It was almost a little too red. Something like that should look good. Now we're going to add a solid by right clicking here and go new solid. Just make it black. That's totally fine. We're going to toss a Venetian blinds effect onto it. So look up Venetian. Toss this Venetian blinds right onto our solid layer. It's going to be hard to tell what's going on, but we're just going to type in some settings here and then it's going to look good. So we want to change this completion to 50%. Change the width to 4 and then duplicate this. Hit Command D to duplicate. We're going to change this next completion to 25%. Change the direction to 90 and then the width to 8. So this is going to give us a little bit of that CRT effect that we're going for. What we can then do is go back to our comp we were working at. So one thing that we're going to toss onto this is a glitch. So in the effects and presets, look up glitch. You should see VR digital glitch. Toss that on there. There's a couple settings we want to mess with. First is all the geometry distortion. We just want to turn that down all the way. And the distortion complexity, we turn that down. The only thing we really want to do is mess with the color distortion. It should look good. Next is I'm going to throw a deep glow on it. Once again, if you don't have the deep glow, just throw a regular glow on it. It should be fine. We're going to turn this down a bit. That looks pretty good. Then we want to apply a rounded masking to it. So to do that, go to your masking shapes here. Make sure you have a rounded rectangle tool. You can click in the corner and drag, and it's going to make a rounded rectangle. Make sure that you have the actual layer selected, and then you want to click and drag. So it's just going to round out the corners a little bit rather than have that harsh. The roundness that's already set should be good enough for it. We're going to move this up a little bit, maybe scale it down. And then one thing I really want is to almost like have the glow effect go off of the thing. So to get that, what we want to do is create a shape layer. So make sure nothing's selected. We're just going to use this rounded one. I'm going to put it behind it. So we're going to put it behind this. And then we're just going to change the stroke to nothing here. We can change the fill. I want it like this light red or like very close to white actually. Then toss a deep glow onto it. And now you can see there's some glow effect behind it. Just want to definitely turn the exposure down quite a bit. Turn the radius down a little bit as well. Also, I'm going to change the color to more of a red. Maybe I have an orangish red. Something like that looks pretty good. What we can do is then pre-compose both these layers. Go to highlight both of them, pre-compose, and then just call it video CRT. And now we know that's a video CRT and it's looking pretty good. All right, so we got our entire frame set up here. Now it's time to get into actually making it a 3D frame. The beautiful thing about this tutorial, it really goes with the basics of creating a 3D scene that you can then apply this to whatever else you're doing. But first thing we need to do is create a camera. So I'm going to go new camera. You can copy all these settings here and then just hit OK. Now that we have this new camera, I'm going to make sure everything is a 3D layer. So you see this little 3D cube icon. We need to check this off for every single layer here. So I'm just going to minimize all that and now make sure everything's checked off. That's going to make it a 3D layer. The first thing I really want to kind of mess with here is this CRT video. I just want to add a little bit of this 3D rotation to it. So I'm going to hit R on my keyboard. I'm going to mess with the Y rotation. So make sure your playhead's at the beginning of the timeline. Make a keyframe for Y. First off, just change it. Something like that's good. And then I'm going to drag my playhead all the way out to the right, almost towards the end, and then just mess with the Y rotation a little bit. So there's nothing on the screen, but basically by the time the video actually cuts out, we won't be seeing it, so it's all right. So this is just adding a little bit of that 3D movement to it. As you can see, it's kind of messing with Iman here. It's going through them. So what we need to do is make things in the foreground and then make things in the background. To do that, all you need to do is go over to the view in the corner here, go to 2 views. Now, if you don't see the second view pop up like this is because you need to change this view area to a right side view. So all you have to do is just click in this window over here, go to right, or go to the camera and then change it to right. If you still don't see it, then you're also not in classic 3D. Make sure you have that selected. So all this really is here's our camera, and then here is all of our assets, all of our things in the frame, but we're looking at it from the right side. So the reason why we're able to see this a little bit better is because it's tilted in 3D space. What we need to do is take the text and push it far back, keep Iman Ghazi in the middle, and push this way forward. So let's work with the text in the very back. So I'm going to click on that, and you'll notice that this little thing pops up when we see this blue arrow. I'm going to take this blue arrow and just push it extremely far back. Probably right around there is good. What we can also do is then scale this up to get that right size that we want. Looks good. Same thing with the Iman Ghazi text. I'm going to push it behind Iman Ghazi, but I don't want it like as far. I just want it maybe a little bit like in between like that. And then we could scale it up to get that right size. We're going to keep Iman Ghazi where he's at just because he's in the middle. He's the main focus. So keep him middle of the 3D scene. The next layers to mess with are the little lines that we have. So I'm going to take these and just drag them closer to frame, or closer to the camera. Take the other one and drag that closer. And then the one that's supposed to be behind him, what we can do is have it behind him. And then I'm going to mess with the rotation of these. So we want to mess with the Y rotation. I want to feel like it's more pointing at him than anything. So I'm going to go over to the other ones, hit R on my keyboard, go to Y, and just angle it towards him a little bit more. Same thing with this other one, hit R, go to Y, angle it towards him. This will get us a nice like 3D effect. Final thing to mess with here in the 3D scene is the actual CRT TV. So click on that and you'll see in this window we can drag the Z axis of it all the way towards the camera. I really want it close to the camera. As you can see, it's kind of coming off the frame here. So what we can do is just click and drag it so it's center of frame. We really want this close to the camera. And then you're thinking like it's way too big. Well, what we can do is just scale it down then. Scale that bad boy down. Keep it like right like that. Alrighty, so that's our 3D scene. We may have to mess with the right view a little bit more as we animate the actual camera going in. But this is generally how you should space things out. It's really going to create that parallax effect for you, meaning when the camera zooms in, this CRTV video is going to go past the camera, and then anything that's behind Iman isn't going to scale up as fast because things are separated. Clear example of a parallax effect is if you're in the car and you notice the mountains in the distance, but then you also notice a fence that's a little bit closer to you, you'll see that the fence is moving a lot quicker, or it seems to be moving a lot quicker when you're in the car rather than the mountain behind you. That's parallax right there. Things in the distance move slower. Things that are closer to you move a lot faster. So from here, we're just going to switch back to a singular view. And now it's time to animate the camera coming up and zooming in. So bring your playhead to the beginning. Drop down the camera settings, go to transform. I like to just create a keyframe for everything here in case we need to mess with it. We want to start this off with Iman kind of up and out of frame. So I think like right here is good. I'm going to drag my playhead to the right by like 2 seconds. We may have to adjust. I'm going to drag it down. just so he's in the middle. And then I'm going to drag my playhead again by another 2 seconds. And we want to move in. So to move in, what we can do is go to the dolly cursor tool and then just zoom that in. I'm also going to mess with where Iman is. So I'm just switching back to this pan tool that allows you to kind of pan along the screen, and the zoom one obviously lets you zoom. So something like that is pretty good. So we could play this back. It's probably not going to be the right speed, but we'll take a look at it. All right, it's not looking that bad. One thing I'm going to do is highlight all these keyframes, right click, go to keyframe assistant, easy ease. Then we're going to play it back. All right, not bad. I'm just going to move these keyframes a lot closer. And these ones a little bit more closer. Okay, so one thing that I also forgot to add is a little bit of a rotation. So as it begins to zoom in, we want to create a keyframe right here for the Z rotation. Click that. Then we're going to snap to the end here. And we're just going to move the Z a little bit, just so it's a little off axis like that. Just give us a little bit more of that desired look. So one thing you do is highlight all of these, and then we want to mess with the speed ramping of the keyframe. So I'm just going to click and drag this to the left. Click on the purple one and drag those to the left as well. Click on this one, the green one, or the orange one. I don't know why I said green. Drag that to the left as well. And it would give us a little bit more of a better speed ramping effect that we're going for. Awesome. This is starting to look really good. There's just a few finishing touches that we need to add to this to really get the desired effect that we're going for. So the first thing I'm going to add is actually a grain texture over it, and I'm going to change it to red. So this grain texture is something that my team and I have made. If you want this grain texture, you can just download the project file. It is here for you for free, or you can find one online. But yeah, it'll be here for you. So I'm going to drag that in, hit R on my keyboard, bring out rotation, change that to 90 degrees. Let's put this in the middle, maybe scale it up a tad bit as well. What we can do is change the blend mode to add. I'm going to go over to Colorama, drag that onto our grain texture. What we can do is go to output cycle, change this to ramp red. And now it's just going to change all that white little dots to red. What we need to do from here is just significantly turn that opacity down. I'm going to turn it to like 15%. We could also add a glow. So I'm going to look up deep glow, add that on there. Maybe turn up the opacity a little bit more. We can make this grain 3D as well. So I'm going to drag it under the camera and I'm going to toggle the 3D on it. So it just gives a little bit more of the effect that we're going for. It's looking pretty good. All right, so we have that added. The next thing we need to do is make a little bit more motion blur in it, because when the camera zooms in, it's not really like you could see everything clearly in real life. If you were like running that fast or you're even watching a movie, you'll notice that they put motion blur into it. So to get that desired effect, we need to toggle motion blur for everything here. So we have the motion blur up top, so we want to toggle all of that. This is still probably not going to get us the complete desired motion blur we want. We might have to adjust some composition settings, but we'll watch it back and see how it does. All right, so the motion blur is actually pretty good. If yours doesn't look this blurry, it's because your composition settings aren't right. And mine so happened to be just right here. So what you need to do is just go up to composition, go to composition settings, go to advanced, and you'll see shutter angle. Up this all the way to 720, and it should get that desired motion blur effect that you're going for. You can see this gets really blurry as it zooms in. All right, so there's one more thing that we need to add to it, and that's a vignette. I'm going to go to New, Adjustment Layer, go over to Effects and Presets, type in Vignette. drag that vignette onto our adjustment layer. And as you drag it on, it's pretty good as is, but you can just mess with it if you want a little bit. I'm going to just up it to like 60 here. And we'll see how that looks. This is looking good. I forgot to tell you that there is actually one more final thing to do, and that's add a little bit of a lens flare in the beginning. So what we want to do is go over to our project here. I have the lens flare for you. Once again, this will be available for you to download completely for free. Link is in the description. But if you don't want to go ahead and do that, just certainly go online and you can find a nice lens flare. So I have this nice red lens flare on that I'm going to drag on. I'm going to hit R on my keyboard to rotate it to 90 degrees. And what we want to do is just find the point of it as soon as it really begins to start. So right around here, I'm going to drag and just delete the rest of it to the left. Should be good. So I'm going to have that start off. And we want to take all of this and then just drag it to the right. See how that looks. So we want to drag this a little bit more in, because as soon as that kind of is over, we want this stuff to appear. Oh, one thing I forgot to do is change this to a blend mode of add, and then we should be able to see, yeah, Iman Ghazi behind there. All right, that's pretty much it. That's how you achieve that 3D reel effect. It's pretty simple. Once you understand 3D spaces, you can apply this to a lot of the animations that you do. If you enjoyed this tutorial, certainly subscribe, give this a like. But if you are an average editor and you want to become an advanced level editor who's able to attract the top level influencers or top brands that are going to pay you top dollar, then check out my Leverage Editor program and community, where we give you all the secrets to doing the Iman Ghazi style, my style, Ali Abdaal style, Dan Koh style even. All of that is in our program. Plus we have a community to go along with that, where we're constantly updating the learning. We have the network effect, and there's a bunch of challenges that are going on. So go ahead and enroll right now, as this will only be open for 5 days, because we want to limit the amount of people who can come through, just so that everyone who does go through is being paid attention to, and that we're making sure that they're learning everything. So spots are super limited inside the community. Sign up right now and we'll see you in there. With that, see you in the next video.